welcome to the fourth episode of The Creative Real Estate Agent. I am your host, Anastasia Forrest, and today I have no guests. Today is episode 4, as I mentioned, and 4 happens to be my favorite number, aside from 24. And so I figured that I would go ahead and take this opportunity to introduce myself to you guys and share a little bit more about why I'm doing this and why creativity in real estate is an important subject to me. Um, the other reason I'm doing this is because my husband, Sean, mentioned that he said I'm not talking enough. He's wonderful. He's been so supportive. He listens, he helps to edit, and he gives me feedback, which is so helpful. So, he mentioned that, I'm asking great questions and getting a lot of great responses from my interviewees. But he said, I'm not sharing. He said, I'd like to hear more from you, and you're not really opening up very much. You're not really sharing much. And I listened back a little bit, and, he definitely has a valid point. It's nice to hear a conversation. I guess in my defense, not that I need a defense, but I am so curious to hear the information and to hear what the people I'm interviewing have to say. I really don't want to squander the time bringing attention to myself, and at the same time, I don't want to. I'm also conscientious of that. I'm trying to stay on topic and make this a cohesive show revolving around creativity and real estate. And I'm sort of maybe a little bit too hyper aware, but wanting to keep it kind of focused. And I'm afraid if I start talking at too much that we're going to get off track. So I am going to be very honest and admit that I'm new to this. This is new. I've never had a podcast before. This system, like this microphone is new to me. I'm not sure I'm using it correctly. Zoom is also relatively new to me. Basically everything I'm doing right now is new. So that goes for the content of the show as well. I'm really enjoying learning my way into this. And I actually heard an inspiring figure in my world, Glenn Sanford, who is the founder of eXp Realty, as well as, he does other things also. But I was in a meeting that he was leading about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. And he mentioned it was cool to hear him say this because he said that the technology he was using and the program that he was using was new to him. And he made a comment to the effect that, if we just don't get out there and try things, somehow, and often that's the way we figure out how to do it. And we end up doing it. It's from getting out there and trying it. And so that really spoke to where I'm at. Totally feel that. And it's cool that somebody that is someone I think of as so established and so, put together and just has it together, would be openly admitting that, he's learning new things too. So anyway, I thought that was relevant to the spirit of this venture. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to say that we have introduced the show. And yes, so I am Anastasia Forrest, as I said, your host. And I've been saying all along, I'm a creative person, right? But I haven't really talked about what I mean by that. That's a super vague description. So my aim in this episode is to unpack that a bit and also just give you an idea of what I'm talking about with creativity in real estate and why I'm passionate about this subject. And, just kind of flesh out the whole idea a little bit more. So I'll start by sharing a little bit about me and my background. So I've actually only been in real estate for about 4 years. I got my license in 2017, and I've been learning ever since, full time, overtime, all the time. It just depends. just kind of immersing myself in the world of real estate. Um, and I'll get back to that, but I'm going to rewind a bit and tell you where I came from, because I'm 36 years old. So obviously there's a lot more of my life before real estate than after. So I'm going to talk about, what creativity is in my life, where I'm coming from with that. So I've always been very creative. Um, Also very strong in the like intellectual area too, as a child, even, that's part of my makeup, is that, some intelligence. And, but also balanced by this super creative, daydreaming, um, personality as well. So I've kind of got two sides that come together in an interesting way. But I first really explored my creativity mostly through art, writing, and music. Um, Especially music became very strong in my life as I grew older and became teenager. My first instrument is piano, and I was drawn to it like at a field trip with my class. I picked out Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, like the melody, and I was so fascinated by being able to connect something I heard in my head and produce it, on this instrument, that I became very adamant to my family and my parents about getting a piano and getting piano lessons. I just fell in love, and was really excited about exploring the relationship between what I heard in my head and what I could make in the world. So it happens. So I started taking piano lessons. Songwriting was always something that I played around with from the time I was 7, I think. I wrote a song for my cat after he died. I remember that being my first song. And anyway, I continued to dabble in songwriting, really getting into it probably in middle school. I remember like the time that I would just feel the most at home and the most myself and the most just like honestly just like relaxed and connected was on the afternoons when I would come home, and I think I was the only person in my house at this point after school, and I would just sit down at the piano and I would write songs. They would just flow, and I would write songs, and it was just like, wow, this is me. Like this is who I am. And any tension I felt throughout the day, it was just like a way of releasing all that. So that was something that really was a good outlet for me, obviously. And I picked up guitar around the age of 12, and got really excited also again when I could see that I had these songs in front of me that had the pictures of the how to make the chords. And I realized, oh, those 3 dots are showing you where to put your fingers. Put fingers there, make the sound. That's a chord. It matches what I've been doing on the piano, but now I can do it on guitar. It was very exciting for me. And it opened up a whole new way of self-expression. And I was writing a lot. I'd write poems, I had journals and just all this writing. And I was really excited because I was able to put together this poetry I had written and make songs, playing guitar. And it was so exciting and so fun. So really, I uh, gravitated toward music for the creativity. And in honestly, like through my teens, music became really big in my life. I started getting attention for my my talent recognized by others. And I had opportunities to play gigs. I collaborated with other musicians. I learned from them. And I, even had opportunities to play in the city north of mine in Jacksonville. And I guess the pinnacle of that, like where it was when I was opening for famous musicians like John Mayer, Styx, Huey Lewis and the News, David Crosby, not to name drop, but just to give you an idea of like where it felt like I was headed. I felt like, I had the opportunity to, um, you know, become more known, and to pursue that as a career. I was really distracted, I will say that. And I know that I didn't give that my what it could have been, but everything happens as it's supposed to. And uh I self-sabotaged a lot, but that's part of being young, apparently. It was part of my story, unfortunately, but whatever, here I am. Um, anyway, I pursued college. I did go to college early. I started when I was 16. I did the GED, and the idea was that I would have more time to pursue music. So I did eventually graduate. I graduated in 2008. I studied philosophy and religion. I was really interested in mythology and symbolism and, the liberal arts. So I was able to explore that more. And my program had a heavy emphasis on like reading, writing, and, thinking, critical thinking. So I definitely learned a lot there. But right after I graduated, about a few months later, I was diagnosed with cancer. And this was definitely one of the most challenging experiences I've been through personally. I was 23 years old. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is actually a cancer that has a pretty high survival rate. It has a 5-year, 80% survival rate. I'm not sure if I said that correctly. It's been a while. But I had basically a 17-centimeter tumor in my mediastinum area that was growing, and I had to do chemo. So I did 6 months of chemotherapy. Was declared in remission by April of 2009. But I had a couple hiccups. I won't get into it too deeply because that's not the point here. But I did radiation, a proton therapy radiation, and I was off to graduate school by January 2010. Um, and before I hop into that, I'll say music continued to be important to me. During this time, I actually released my first official like album. I had written so many songs. I probably have over 50 original songs. But going through that experience motivated me to get it together and do what I had to do to facilitate the releasing of some music into the world. So it is available on iTunes if you're interested. It's under Anastasia Speaker, my maiden name. It's called Of the Resurrection, that album. But anyhow, music was an important helper for me during that time. I wrote songs about prednisone, for example, like this medicine that I had to take, this steroid I had to take. I wrote songs about chemotherapy. I had a song called The Chemotherapy Blues. I wrote spiritual songs about, the unknown and about my my doubts and my fears, but also faith and hope. And anyway, music and creativity helps get me through that experience. Um, Going forward, I did go to music school in 2010, January of 2010. I studied music therapy. I was pursuing a graduate degree, which fulfilled both my desire to serve, because music therapy is, a kind of therapy. But it also helped. It was also important to me to continue growing intellectually and academically, because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed being in college. And I really also didn't know what else to do, to be honest. So I figured this is combining two things I really love. I love being in college and I love music. Perfect. Um, so I learned a bunch of stuff about, did a bunch of music theory classes, music history, therapy, music, and education. It was very fascinating. And I spent I have a lot of student loan debt, but we won't get into that. Um, During this time, I met somebody who was very eager to start a family, and uh, we ended up getting together, getting married, and I had a baby, which changed my life forever in the most wonderful way. Changed me and changed my sense of purpose on this earth, for sure. But unfortunately, without getting to any kind of detail, I had to move back to St. Augustine. It wasn't going very well. She was very young. Um, she was only 3 months. So that was also probably that was definitely the second most other challenging experience I've been through, was that painful experience of, separating and, being a single mom, and going through the drama and the trauma. I mean, you can imagine those kind of situations are not easy. So, but thankfully, I was very supported. I always felt like, I was being looked out for and supported in a myriad of ways. And one of those coincidences that really showed me that was one afternoon I was building a website to offer music lessons, because now as mom, I had to, start making money. And, I was thinking more about career and building business. And literally, as I was building my website, I got a phone call from somebody that's a mutual friend of myself and my husband, who I didn't know yet. And he said, "Hey, I'm building a studio, starting a studio downtown St. Augustine. We are going to have, music lessons, and we're going to have a girls with guitars program. And I want you to lead that program. And, and I would love for you to teach music lessons here out of the studio." Was like, whoa, like goosebumps. It was amazing. What a coincidence. Here I was building a website to offer music lessons for the first time. I've never taught before. And I get a phone call from a friend, you know, uh, giving me a place to go do that, and asking for nothing in return. It was just so serendipitous. Um, so I ended up meeting my current husband that day, or not that day, but the first time I went to go into that studio, I met Sean. Um, Sean is also a musician. Sean was going to be teaching lessons there. He also happens to be, was owner of the studio and of the plays. And anyway, he and I really hit it off. We started writing music together, and just had a connection. It was so funny because he and I had never met before, that we're aware of, but we moved in the same circles, lived in the same city. And St. Augustine is not a big city for years. Um, but we met then, and he was just so wonderful and so sweet with my little girl, and really good, just wonderful, wonderful to me. So anyway, we fell in love, and we're now married, and we have another child. Um, but anyway, to get back to the point, we are now real estate agents. Now, I'll say how I got into real estate. Um, Sean is a general contractor. He has been for over 10 years. He's been doing construction like way longer than that, because he was basically brought up in it. His dad started a business in the 70s, a general contractor construction business. And, Sean was brought up in that. So Sean is a wonderfully talented, not only musician, but also a general contractor. And he's been in the housing industry, for years and years and years. So when we had Ophelia, when I gave birth to Ophelia, and it was kind of like at the time, like while I was pregnant with her and stuff, I was working at the Arc of St. John's, I was working with people, adults and children with special needs. I was traveling from school to school with my guitar, my instruments. I was basically doing the music therapy thing, though I wasn't a music therapist, because that didn't pan out with the way my life went. But um, I was basically doing the music therapy work. But you know what? It really wasn't going to work with what we were moving into, having two kids, all these expenses, adult life, expensive life. I don't know. Just it's hard. It wasn't really bringing in enough income, is what I'm trying to say. A few hours a week of doing music with working with music with people is great, is wonderful, is great. and I'm glad I got to do it. But we were moving into a different phase, right? So Sean suggested that I get into real estate. And I will be honest, I didn't know anything about real estate, like, at all. So this was a new venture for me, but I love learning new things. And so we would put our baby to bed and, around 6, 7, whenever it was, and we would go to the couch and we did this together. We would study, put it up on the TV. It was a virtual class that you go at your own pace. So we would learn the stuff. We'd quiz each other. And I love learning. So it's boring. I mean, if you've done before, it's not really super interesting, but it is learning and I love learning. So kind of can make anything interesting if you really look at it as a learning experience. So got the license, just joined a brokerage and started working. It took me 6 months to get my first deal. It was not easy for me. I didn't have an easy start. I don't know why, but that's the way it was. I guess it was testing my persistence. Had a couple false starts, had a couple people back out of contracts, things like that. But finally, and I'm just going to take a sip of water. Finally, after much persistence, I'd actually just read the book, The Conversion Code by Chris Smith. And it really inspired me to start thinking creatively about real estate, which I had not really, I hadn't really realized how creative you can be with marketing and how much, room there is for experimentation and innovation. So I actually got my first lead that converted into a sale from a Facebook ad I had run. And this sale was not only a purchase, but it was also the sale of her home. So my first real estate sale was a double close. And man, if you guys listening, if you can remember back to your first sale in real estate, you'll know what I'm talking about. When you get that first check that has 3 zeros at the end of it, it's like nothing I'd ever been given before for compensation for my work, for anything I'd done, and it's encouraging, right? Now, if I hadn't had Sean and a stable partner, stable income, it would have been really hard. Those 6 months I would have had to figure something out, right? But once you get that ball rolling, it is encouraging. And after that, things just started moving. I started getting more leads coming in, listing here, listing there, and joined a couple different brokerages before I ended up at EXP. And during this time, I experimented with integrating some creativity into my real estate stuff. I would do things like, I think the first thing I did was sing about a listing. I think that was the very first time I tried to use music in my real estate business. So I found a listing, it wasn't my own, and I sang about it. I made a song about it. I played ukulele, recorded it, and it happened to be that it was my broker's listing. So luckily I didn't get in trouble or anything. And he actually was like, "Hey, that was pretty cool what you did. Why don't you boost that post?" Which is really, I remember him saying that. And that was, I appreciate that he was supportive. And, it was cool because people were looking, they're like, "What is she doing? Like, people don't do this. Like, realtors don't sing." So I was a little bit anxious about how it would be perceived because it was important to me to be taken seriously as I'm new, or was very new. But at the same time, I took a little risk and I tried it, and it actually ended up going over really well. So I did it a few more times with a few other listings. I don't do it every time now. I don't, but once in a while I will. And honestly, it's always gone well. And I've seen people in my city that I don't know who recognize me and say, "You're the singing realtor." And it's cool. And I just want to throw that out there because, if there's something that you can bring that maybe somebody else doesn't or can't, and it's something that might be appreciated and might catch someone's eye and might keep you top of mind, then, it probably is worth giving it a try. Of course, balanced with this, I want to be taken seriously, and be professional. But, oftentimes I'll wear like a suit. I balance it out because I'll put like a suit jacket on. I'll look my best, and I'll introduce it by speaking, and I'll sing. So anyway, that's just something I've tried. That was my first venture into being creative with real estate. Since then, and especially since I've joined EXP now, at my second brokerage that I was part of, I don't feel like the creativity was very appreciated there necessarily by everyone. Definitely got some mixed um, responses, and not directly to my face, but um, you know, I knew that I didn't quite fit in, kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. My broker was supportive. But no, creativity isn't for everyone. And sometimes some people can be maybe intimidated by it, or maybe they're just judgmental about it. I don't know. I don't know why people are the way they are. But whatever. I'm now with EXP Realty and I love it. And I found out about EXP Realty because I was listening to the podcast Real Estate Uncensored. And I was learning so much from listening to these guys just talk openly about the realities of real estate and offer, experiences gleaned, wisdom gleaned from years of experiences in it, So, and one of the things they started talking about was EXP. And they said, if you want to fly your own flag and build your own brand, join our team at EXP Realty. And you can do this from wherever you are. And they're in California. I'm in Florida. But it started to click. It started to click. And after a few, eventually reached out and had a couple really good conversations with Greg, my sponsor. Ended up joining EXP Realty. And honestly, the way I've been able to build my business, our business, my husband and I joined as a domestic partnership. I need to say that we are both realtors at EXP Realty. Sean, is still very, has a lot of work in the construction side. So, but I get business from him and from his sphere. And I also, he's very supportive and helpful in anything I need. But I say the day-to-day contract stuff, the majority of the real estate responsibilities fall on my shoulders right now. And so when I say I'm not excluding him. He's 100% a part of this. It's easier to say because I'm the one like talking. So, I don't remember what I was talking about. Yeah, creativity. Um, so I really got the opportunity to really build a brand and do this at EXP Realty. So one way that I did this is our logo. So we're called the Forrest team because I'm Anastasia Forrest, he's Sean Forrest. So I in my mind, had a vision of what I wanted this logo to look like. I sketched it out. It's a tree with a house, and on the bottom it says the Forrest team at EXP Realty. And our tagline is "May the forests be with you." So I got to like sketch this out, and thank goodness I learned about Fiverr. In Fiverr, something I found out about, through just networking with other realtors and people I don't know in real life. A lot of my inspiration and my connections are people I've never met in person. But Fiverr is wonderful. If you have not heard of it, oh my goodness. It is a network, a website, a place where you can hire freelancers to do so many different kinds of things. There are people on there that will do graphic design, will write articles, will even like I've hired somebody to make backtrack music for one of my songs. Just do the whole all the instruments. I played a guitar and like sent it to him and sang, and he just made the whole track. So you can really do so much. And if you're creative like me and you have a lot of raw inspiration that you don't have time to polish and do every little facet of, so it comes into its own, or B, maybe you don't have those skills. Like, I can draw. Okay. I don't have time or the skills, to be honest, to make a professional looking logo, completely polished PNG, JPEG, this and that. So I sent it to my designer at Fiverr. I found a designer and they polish the logo for me. And then you collaborate, they shoot it to you, you make some comments, they make some edits, they send it back. It's collaborative, but yes, it is 100% creative. And I do count that as creative. So, there are a lot of other things that, I have in the works. I have a file on my phone called Notes. You have Notes, right? It's an app. And inside the Notes, I have different folders. And in each, I have different ideas that maybe I haven't had time to try out yet. I've got scripts for videos to do with real estate. I've got, an animation I wanted to make for my closed buyers that I would love to have like a designer, make the animation that I have in my mind. And of course, I have a folder for the creative real estate agent, which brings me back to the subject of the creative real estate agent. So this is one of my ways of being creative right now, is this podcast and this series. And my task and one of my biggest challenges has always been deciding where to put my energy and my focus. And with real estate, that can be a very pressing challenge, because as you know, as a realtor, we've got all kinds of responsibilities, especially if you don't have an assistant or other agents working for you. You're the marketer, you're the promoter, you're the lister, you're the secretary, you're the prospector. I mean, it goes on and on. So obviously those tasks that I must do at this point in my career are very important, but I have to have a creative outlet, right? And while this is one of them right now, and this is actually something I feel really excited about, and I have a good feeling about, and I that's why I'm choosing to focus on this and give this particular focus each week. I see that there's a place for it. I know there are other creatives out there who are in real estate and are either working on balancing, like striking a balance between their creative life and their work and their business, and or they are working on integrating the two in some way, shape, or form. And so I think this show can be a place to, first of all, feel camaraderie and know that you're not alone in this path, and also a place to get inspiration from other people and see ways that they have integrated creativity into their businesses, into their marketing, into their branding. Like, there's a lot that we can learn from each other. And I have a lot of people that I'm excited about learning from. And so that's why I am doing this podcast. And that's a little bit about me too. You probably learned a lot more about me than you knew before. So I hope that this has been helpful and relevant. I did my best not to delve off too deeply into my biography, and hopefully I have somewhat achieved that. And anyway, if you have any questions about real estate or about getting involved with an amazing business brokerage, eXp Realty, that has the potential to help you really tap into your creativity and create a business around you that makes sense to you and that is unique and compelling, I would love to chat with you about, my experience and why I can tell you about the pros and cons of each brokerage I've been with and why I am here and what I've been able to do here and what I see in the future here. So anyway, yes, feel free to reach out to me. I do have a website that you can go and schedule a time to talk to me on. It's www.creativerealestateagents.com. And for now, it's a simple, booking, a place to book an appointment, to talk, but it will be built out. There's going to be more stuff for you there soon in time. And I think that is all for now. I wish everyone well. And until next time, stay creative.